I'm very much a short session angler. I really don't get a lot of time. Obviously people think I'm out in the bank all the time, but you know, I've got work commitments. I work full time like most people. I've got a family and I get a lot of other things to do, tie up my time. So if I'm lucky, I'll get a night, a night a week or an evening on the bank, but I do try and get out regularly, and I kind of push myself to get out. And I think once you're in the routine of doing that and you've got kind of your kit sorted for where you need to go and where you're going to be fishing, once it's done, it's very easy to sort of grab it and go. Always make sure I'm really prepared as well, because I'm so limited for time. There's certainly some waters I'll turn up and I've already got an idea of where I want to be, but it's never set in stone. I never turn up at a water and think I'm going there, that's the swim I want. I'll always give it a little bit of time just to have a quick nose round, because you never really know. I mean, I turned up on the club water for an evening this year, and the wind was absolutely hacking down one end and there was no one up there. There was 4 or 5 lads on and they were all on the back of the wind, and it was like a dolphin show down the other end. So, you turn up in those situations, you just got to get straight down on the fish, and it was 5 or 6 fish in an evening. Well, with fishing last year, I started off where I am now actually, which is just one of the chumps of smaller waters. It's a good little runs water, so I started coming on in Jan and Feb, just doing the odd morning, so probably 3 or 4 mornings through those months. But it got me out of the house and it got me fishing, and I was out getting bites and just enjoying myself. Then come the spring, March, I moved back onto the Syndicate Lake. The Syndicate Lake's probably 10, 12 acres, 120 fish probably. A few sort of stockies over the last few years, but the general stamp of the fish is really good. There's probably 6 to 8 40s at the right time of year when they're at their best weights, and there's a few that aren't far behind as well, so it's a great water for big fish. First couple of trips, didn't go too well. Struggled. Again, they were short sessions, they were overnighters. There was 1 or 2 fish getting caught as well. I think that was really it in March. Like I say, a couple of nights, nothing happened. Got into April then. Next trip down was a blank, so that was 3 on the bounce, and I was starting to get a little bit twitchy about it. But I wasn't completely disheartened, and I felt I'd made a couple of mistakes, to be fair, on the first couple of trips. More on swim choice than anything, going on the back of people a couple of times, and going into swims just too late, the fish aren't there anymore. But persevered with it. 4th trip, again, just an overnighter. It happened for me, and I caught one of the A-teamers. Well, I'm back on the Syndicate Lake in Essex, and I have had a little bit of a result. I didn't even know if I was going to do last night. It all depended on what time I finished work. It's 7:30 now in the morning. I got the rods out about 6 o'clock yesterday evening. As I said, I wasn't 100% sure even if I was going to do tonight. It all depended on what time I got here. And at 5 o'clock this morning, I got a take, and I've had a real result, and I'm absolutely over the moon and I'm buzzing. I've had a fish known as a grand fromage of 43.4 £. So it's the 2nd biggest fish in the lake. It's one of the A-team, and it's one I can tick off the list. So absolute result. So I'm going to get her out. We'll have a look at her. I've got about an hour, and I've got to be on the road. Fortunately today I'm local, so I've got a little bit of extra time on here. So let's get her out. Well, there she is, the grand fromage, 43.4 £. Absolutely buzzing catching this one. I wasn't even going to do last night. I was going to do the night before that, but I was too late finishing work, so it looks like fate's been on my side that I managed to get last night in. I've got about another 45 minutes and I'll be hitting the road, so just goes to show you it's worth putting the effort in on them overnighters. So, like I say, absolutely buzzing. What a fish. Well, Time to let her go. Hopefully I'll see one of her friends later, or another day at least. See you later, Gil. Yes! So I was absolutely over the moon. First fish, you know, the season out at the Syndicate for me, and it's one of the biggest fish in the lake. So yeah, absolutely great then. From then, carried back on, done a couple of nights, and I was catching then. The next night on there, I was fortunate, I didn't have to go to work the next day. It was a Friday night, so I managed to stay on a little bit later, so I was on till late morning, and it paid dividends. I ended up, so I was fishing from Friday evening till say probably 11 o'clock on the Saturday morning, and I had 330s. And one of them, I suppose, I don't know if you'd class it as one of the 18 members, but it's sort of close to 38 pound. Not the best looking fish in the lake, but still good sized fish. And also had two mid-30s as well, and lost a really good fish that tried to take me around the back of the island. So it was a case of holding on and the hook pulled. So a little bit unfortunate there, but you know, what a great night's fishing. I was then back on again. I think it was a couple of weeks later, so we're into May now. Yeah, it was good. I moved on, found some fish. They were all kind of down the shallows, and had 3 fish in very quick succession. And then it kind of went quiet, and I had to reposition my rods because I was really fishing in someone else's water that then turned up to fish. Turned out, I realise now why the fish were gathering down there. They actually started spawning that night, and that was pretty much it. That killed the fishing on there for me. So I'd done pretty well, you know. I was on, I think at that point, I'd had 7 fish in probably, I don't know, 6 nights, I think, something like 7 nights. So I was doing really well. It can certainly be a tough lake. This year was exceptionally bad, mainly due to the fact of the weed growth this year was just unbelievable. And yeah, what it caused was the fact there was only sort of 4 or 5 fishable swims on the lake, so it was really limited for space. I had a lot of product to test at that time. We had lots of nice little bits of terminal tackle and hooks and things to play with. So it was kind of an ideal opportunity to really move on to another water that, like I say, I was targeting a water that I wanted to catch a 30 pound common from. It's probably 6-7 acres, I would think. Stock wise, I don't know, but it's got a good head of fish. I would have said 400 plus. So it really has got a good head of fish. And that proved really prolific for me. Although I struggled to start with, not on numbers, I was catching numbers, but I just couldn't get through to any of the bigger fish. And I was kind of thinking the way I was approaching it was maybe wrong. But I was wading through the fish, like I say, but you know, only getting them up to like mid-20s. Anyway, I stuck with that. I certainly started doing a few evenings as well on one of the other club lakes. That is sort of days only. So again, if I was a little bit more limited for time, or I needed to be somewhere the next day, work related, you know, and it was only a case of, you know, you're going to have to do an evening, then it was a case of going on there. And I was really enjoying that because obviously I was fitting around between a few waters as well. I then went back, so I had a bit of a break from the club lake and I went back on there. I fished a different swim. I had been targeting one area, like I say, doing the numbers, and I fished a different swim, and it was, I wasn't planning on actually fishing this swim, but I was about to walk past. I'd left my barrow there and had a walk around the lake. One of the swims I fancied was occupied, so I was planning on going down the other end, and as I come back to my barrow, I saw a fish show, and it was about the sort of range I've been fishing as a drop-off on this lake, and it was kind of in the right sort of area, so I opted to stay there. That resulted in the capture of the biggest fish in the pond that night, so I was absolutely over the moon. A fish, I believe they call it cut-tail, but I'd never really thought about catching that one because I'd been told it was a bit of a loner, and you know, perhaps my approach wasn't suited to it, and it comes out the edge a lot more, and I'm fishing more at range. So it came as a little bit of a surprise, like I say, as much as anything. I'd gone back on there really, because if I hadn't done a night that night, I wasn't going to get any fishing that week. I think I had 3 other 20s and a couple of doubles as well, so it was a really good evening's fishing. When I turn up at a venue, I will often have some idea of where I want to go. It might just be because of the conditions, it might be because they're favourable swims anyway, but nothing's ever set in stone when I turn up. I mean, I am limited for time, so I can't spend too long thinking about it, otherwise I just won't get any fishing in. But it's like anything, is you kind of, the more you fish somewhere, the more you understand where those fish are going to be anyway. So I'll turn up, get the barrow loaded, always have a look round before I choose anywhere, you know, that I'm going to go. If there's a swim I've got in my mind anyway, I'll generally move my gear into there and then go and have a walk around the lake. Yeah, I mean, I turned up at the club lake at one point last year and it was only doing an evening. Yeah, I turned up, there's about 4 or 5 lads on actually. Wind hacking down one end, no one up there, dolphin show down one end, and it was a case of like, yeah, straight down there. And I'd fished a swim I don't think I'd even ever fished before, but you know, it was sort of 5 or 6 fish in an evening. So yeah, nothing's ever set in stone. Like I say, that wasn't where I was planning on going when I was heading over there. But yeah, it's hard, you know. One of the other club lakes, when I was fishing the evening there, I tend to keep the barrow loaded. Even though I'm only doing sort of 4, if I get 5 hours, it's a push. You know, a lot of the time I'm fishing for about 4, but it was more, you know, more than sort of 3 occasions that for the last hour and a half, I'd quite happily move swim, you know, before I had to be off the lake. If I thought, you know, that was going to be productive for me to do that, then that's what I'd do. I mean, I take a lot of gear fishing with me. Anyone that fishes with me know that, but I've kind of had to kind of scale things down, and I've had to gear bits of kit to where I'm going. And yeah, it's worked for me. Like I say, I can travel lightly with the barrow, and yeah, up sticks and move. I don't tend to get everything out that, you know, I just get the bits I need. If you keep things generally packed up, it's very quick to move. So yeah, it's always an advantage. When you're doing this sort of style of short session angling, which most have to do, yeah, preparation is a massive part of that. Again, limited for time. I don't want to be messing around tying up rigs when I get there or anything like that. I always have loads of rigs tied. My bait's all ready, you know, if I'm fishing with particle, it's already prepared. I'm not mixing it up on the bank. It's all done the day before. Again, like, kind of every second counts when you're doing that. I mean, my rods are made up. They're made up for where I'm going in advance, so if I need a different setup, it'll be ready. It won't be a case of, oh, I'm here now, I need to change that. It's done, those rods are ready to go, even down to having hook baits on a lot of the time. You know, they'll go on the night before, they're ready to cast out. You know, if my rods are still marked from a previous session, I'm in the same swim, for example, even better. But the sticks will generally come out, the rods are quickly wrapped, hook baits are already on, and yeah, I'm fishing. The last couple of years have seen me use a lot of helicopter setups in sort of various arrangements. I've played around with it a lot the last couple of years. The reason I like it, one, it's pretty tangle proof, and I've been fishing them sort of naked style as well. I've not been using leaders. One of the beauties of a helicopter setup is it's very easy to cast it into anything. So for example, you just move the top bead. So if you're fishing into silt, I can cast into silt, and there's loads of room for error because I can move that bead to, even if I think the silt's 6 inches, I can move that bead 18 inches, 2 foot up the line, and I know I'm fishing, I know my rig's laying there. It also means even on silt, you can get away with using quite stiff rigs, and I'm quite a fan of sort of stiff style hook lengths. Again, weed's another thing. So you turn up, if you're fishing over sort of a lot of sort of dying weed or sort of low level weed, again, you slide the bead up, you know you can cast on it, you know, with a sort of balanced bait style rig, or pop up, slow sinking, your rigs always seem to sitting on it. So again, hard bottoms, just a case of moving the bead down nice and tight, and again, you're fishing effectively. So for me, it's so versatile. You know, you can't do that with a leg clip arrangement, you can't do that with an inline setup. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons, you know, like I say, it kind of, I can adapt to any swim I suddenly drop in really quickly and fish effectively. As I said, a lot of the time I've been fishing over silt or sort of low level weed. So I've been fishing pop-ups, and I preferred to do this using a multi-rig, which was particularly suited, especially on the club lake, because at times it could be really prolific. So it meant if a hook point had gone, I could change it really quickly. I mean, as much as I'll still have rigs already tied up anyway, it's just a real quick way of doing it, you know, so you haven't got to go to them rigs if you don't need to. I'll also have rigs set up ready to go anyway with fresh baits on. It's another thing that I do. Just really, again, it's a speed thing. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, like most multi-rigs you'll see out there. No real variation on it. Just fishing it with like a Camatech semi-stiff hook length material. Again, with the semi-stiff, if I was casting it onto anything a little bit sort of uneven, or I didn't want my rig sticking up in any strange way, so it's kind of stiff enough not to get the tangles, but at the same time it's supple enough as well that it doesn't look strange if you know, if you do cast it onto some weed. I know a lot of anglers think that you can't really get a spot established when you're kind of short session angling, but I think you can definitely find spots that you can work on, and I think at certain times of the year, and depending on how much pressure there is on the lake, even if you're fishing on short sessions, you may be able to get things going at times. And then Syndicate Lake towards the back end of the year, you know, it was really weedy in the autumn still. It was probably worst actually. But I sort of stuck to swim. When I moved back on there, I went back on and I actually had a couple of nights, which was a real rarity for me. I spent the first night in this particular swim, found a couple of really nice spots. I knew one of them was out there anyway. Struggled to find anything really with the third, but yeah, anyway, I'd done the night in there, didn't have anything. Thought, well, I'll bait the spots. Plan was to try and get back next week anyway. Moved elsewhere on the lake and I actually caught. I had one, it wasn't one of the big ones, it was one of the stocky sort of 18 pound. So that was that. I was confident that there was fish in the area I'd been fishing. So next week saw me back in there. And again, I actually had 2 nights, so this was kind of the most fishing I was getting for the year really. Back on these 2 spots, played around with the third rod again. Like I say, I never really got anything established with the third rod. And it produced, again, I don't know if you'd call it one of the 18 members, but it's certainly getting up there at 37.13, I think it was. It's best ever weight, fish known as a prehistoric. And it's a real nice fish as well, so I'm really pleased with that. And it was fishing really hard at that time as well. So next trip saw me, again, if I could get in that swim, I was going back in there. I was now confident, like I say, there wasn't many swims to fish anyway because of the weed, but I was confident if I could get in there and get in them spots, I could probably do another bite. So it was only an overnighter, but I got in there again, had one of the kind of rare looking ones. It's a strange looking common that looks like a big goldfish really. You see its head and you think it's a mid-30, but it went in at 26 pound on it was. But again, great to be catching, like I say, because it was fishing so hard. Next trip down saw me on for 2 nights. So, you know, again, long session for me. It was the first night, well it was actually sort of coming into the next morning of the first night. So it's just getting light, gets a take, run the 18 this time, so again, over the moon. First time out of 40 pound fish known as the brown fish.
This is a fish known as the brown fish, and 40 pound 12 ounces, first time at over 40 pound. So well pleased, absolutely made up with this one.
I think I had one more session on the Syndicate after that, which was an overnighter, but unfortunately the spots didn't produce for me this time. And that was kind of it really for me there. The lake really started to shut shop. Didn't do a lot of fish all the way to the end of the year. I felt I made the most of it. Like I say, I made some mistakes early on. I think one of the key things for me last year was kind of fishing the waters at the right time, if that makes sense. So fishing the Syndicate in the spring and in the autumn which for me are the best times of year anyway. So, you know, that paid dividends, and it gave me those opportunities during those summer months to fish elsewhere and, you know, like I say, target one of the fish I wanted to catch. Yeah, so planning, preparation were key, and yeah, making the most of that time on the bank, being prepared to learn and understand the waters you're fishing on and being prepared to change. Yeah, it all kind of comes together, and I ended up, although I was flitting around a little bit, I really enjoyed my fishing last year. It was kind of quite a variety, and it kind of felt like I was busy fishing all the time because I was working at it. So yeah, absolutely loved last year, and hopefully this year will be even better, and I'll get a bit more time to get on the bank. I doubt it, but hopefully. Was that all right? Yeah.